What's poppin', you guys? How y'all doing this week? If y'all new here, my name's Ciara, and this is Self-Made Energy, where we want for nothing because we can manifest anything. This week, you guys, I wanted to manifest this gorgeous, like, poofy princess dress. Like, do you see her? Do you see her? Let me, hold on. Do you see her? I'm so in love with it. Like, y'all don't even know how this dress makes me feel. It makes me feel like the gayest little fairy ever, and I'm living for all of those vibes. If you know me, you know those are my vibes. But yes, y'all, I just wanted to make this dress just because I bought a robe online and I wanted to just be walking around my house looking fancy, but it didn't fit. It just didn't fit. It was just way too tight, and I wanted to do something with it. I didn't just want to throw it away or give it away because it had potential. The fabric was gorgeous. It just wasn't made for me. So we turned it into something that was made for me. Hello. So I decided cut it up and make it into something you can wear around your house. So that's where this dress came from. And again, I'm in love with the outcome, and I hope you guys love it too, because honestly, this dress just gives me all the princess vibes that I've already known was in me. It brings them right out. If you thought I was annoying before, oh, just wait till I put this dress on. I'm going to be prancing around my house like a freaking fairy. But it is what it is. That's why I did it. But yes, y'all, let's stop talking about it because I feel like I've been talking forever as usual. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention my pool hair. Yes, y'all are not seeing my fancy curls and my pink hair because I went to the pool and now my hair is ratchet. So it is what it is. Embracing my black girl magic. Thank you, girl. I got hair. Yes, y'all. And this is my hair too. Don't try to put me. It's just not braided, so I can't fit it under my wig. But enough about my hair because nobody even asked. Let's go. It don't fit. Super tight on the arms. Watch me hold out on this bitch. The length, perfect. It does have a split on both sides, but it don't close, so we're gonna try to fix it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is work on the bodice. And I found this ribbon that was on clearance because someone cut off of it thinking it was sold by the yard. And it's about 8 inches too short, as you can see, but I figured I'd work with it and see what I can do. So I took both pieces and I just placed them wrong sides together because I wanted that piping detail to be on the outside. And I did a straight stitch right along that piping. And you guys, that piping gave me so much grief. Oh my God, but we'll get to that later. I decided I was going to put in some darts just because this piece was just so flat and I needed it to mold to my body. And those piping details had like metal wiring in it, so it made it really stiff. Once I was done evening out those sides, I moved on to the lining and I just cut out a huge rectangle and I laid it over the top of my bodice because again, I wanted that piping detail to be out. So I did a straight stitch over the top of that piping, securing the lining underneath, but it's not actually going to fold over in the front, just in the inside. So that was easy because I didn't have to do any top stitching to keep the lining on the inside either. So that was perfect. Once the lining was attached at the top, I just folded it down and folded in all the raw edges and did a top stitch around both sides and around the top again. And then I figured, you know what? This metal has to go. It's making everything so hard. I can't fold it. I can't mold it. I can't sew it. It's gotta go. So I took it out. And once the metal was out, I was able to put in better darts into the bodice. So I did that off camera. And now we're moving on to the actual robe that started this whole thing. And I'm just disassembling it. I cut off the sleeves and I cut it at 15 inches. That was directly in half. So I had 15 at the top half and 15 at the bottom half. And I took all the pieces that I could and I just did a straight stitch just to attach them all together so I could have a really long rectangle so it could be gathered up and be as fluffy as it could be. I know I was working with a little bit of fabric, so I had to make this stretch, really stretch. Like, you're gonna see it, it was stretched. But yeah, once I had that top layer with the pearls on it, I moved on to all the under layers. And I had 3 yards of this tulle, and I just folded it up so it could be around the same length as the skirt, so I wouldn't have to do much editing and cutting and sewing later. I did 2 basting stitches at the top so it would be easier to gather later. And once I had that top layer done, I attached the fashion fabric layer, and I probably shouldn't have, but then again, maybe not, because it showed me my top layer was too short. So I had to finagle some things and add even more. So I had to take it apart. So once I was done destroying, it was time to rebuild. So I had some tulle already laying around in my house from when the pandemic started, and I bought 10 yards of tulle on a roll because I panicked and it was on sale for $10 and I had to have it. So I took 4 yards of that tulle and I folded it in half, cut it in half, and I took 2 layers at a time and I did 2 basting stitches across the top. So altogether I have 6 layers of double layered tulle for this skirt as the underskirt, not including that top layer. Once I was done basting all those layers, I gathered them all up to the right length, and then I attached them all together. I wanted them to be attached separately so it could be a little bit more fluffy instead of them all being one flattened seam. There could be about 6 different seams and it'll be a little bit more poofy at the waist. Once I was done making the underskirt, I moved on to doing the layer under the underskirt that would touch my actual skin and the layer that would be directly under the fashion fabric. Because they are 2 different colors, I wanted a color right in the middle that could blend everything together seamlessly. This tulle is also much softer than the other tulle, that's why I chose to put it as that very bottom layer so it could be soft on my skin. And these are the same pieces of tulle from the beginning of the video that I had to take apart. So I didn't use any new tulle, this is the same tulle. I just reattached it 2 layers at a time. So now, for anyone keeping count, we are now at 8 layers of double layered tulle. So technically we're at 16 layers of tulle. So this skirt is a poof monster and I love it. It actually doesn't look very poofy once I put it on, which is like, how much tulle do you need? How much tulle does one need to really floof out? And I'm just doing the same exact thing to attach all the layers. I'm just attaching them 2 at a time. So I'm just doing 2 basting stitches right along that top edge and then gathering them up to the right length and doing 2 more basting stitches on the next 2 and the next 2 and the next 2 until everything's together. And I did end up switching out my thread color to do the basting stitches because I was running out of my top thread, and oh my god, y'all, when I tell you I had about 6 inches of thread left, it was so close. When I finished this project, I had 0 thread left. It was crazy. But yeah, once I was done with the floofy part of the skirt, I moved on to that last top layer and I just did a basting stitch along that top edge and gathered it up so it could be the same length as that underskirt, and then I did the top stitch to secure all those layers together. Also keep in mind that I did leave the back seam open, so these are really just long rectangles that have been gathered. This is not a circle yet. Don't close up that back seam because I made the mistake of doing that earlier on in the project too. So a lot of mistakes here, but we got it together in the end. Once I had everything evenly gathered and spaced out, I did a straight stitch along that top edge, and I made sure to watch out for all those basting stitches because you are going to be taking those out. I did not leave them in. So I just did that top stitch, and then I carefully removed the basting stitches, which took forever. Okay, so boom. Once I was done attaching all the layers of tulle, I smushed all of those layers in between the fashion fabric of the bodice and the lining of the bodice. And I made sure that all those basting stitch holes and any little raggedy edges, anything that could fray, anything that was a little unsightly and I didn't want to be seen, I made sure all of that was tucked inside the bodice so everything could look nice and seamless and perfect and gorgeous, like me. I also made sure that I folded in those raw edges of the lining so those would also be tucked in and nice and neat and tidy. And I also did a little bit of pleating on the lining just so it had a little bit of room to stretch around my body because I knew this lining fabric did not stretch. So I just left a little bit of give just in case. And usually to attach the bodice to the skirt, you would attach it the top layer and then the lining layer. But I've been sewing for 700 years now and I'm just over this project. I just want it to be done and I want to save time. So I'm going to sew both layers at the same time. And this does make it a little bit more difficult. You do have to make sure you're catching both layers. But listen, I didn't have time for it. Even though I would have been highly upset if it didn't work and I had to take it out and do it all over. But thank God that didn't happen. Amen, amen. So now I'm just going to carefully do a top stitch across all the layers, praying that I catch that bottom lining layer as well as all the layers of tulle and everything is nice and neat and flat at the waistline. I also made sure to line everything up in the middle before I pinned everything together because I knew the back was going to be pretty open since the ribbon wasn't long enough to begin with. And once everything was attached together and I made sure everything was nice and neat, I moved on to closing up the back of the skirt. And you guys, this also took forever because I had to do it 2 layers at a time because that's how I constructed the skirt. I wanted it to be so poofy. So of course I couldn't wait till the very last step and then be lazy and put them all in one seam. I had to do them 8 different seams like I did the waistline, or it was all a waist. So here we are, just closing up wrong sides together, 2 layers of tulle at a time. Once I was done evening out my ruffles and making sure everything looked exactly how I wanted it to look, I took a piece of elastic waistband and I just measured it around my body and I pinned it around the entire waist of the skirt. Now this is going to have to be stretched and sewn on because the skirt is way bigger than my actual waistline, which is the point because you want it to gather and give it a little bit more poofy effect when you're wearing it. And since I had some pretty pink and gold elastic, I did want it to peek out the back just a little bit, just so you could see the glimmer of gold. Not too much, but a subtle note of glitter never hurt anyone, you know? Okay, we getting somewhere, we getting there. Not there yet. I have no idea how I'm gonna close this back up because clearly sis is just trying to fall right off me because I have nothing to tie the back up. So that's something I need to think about, and I also definitely need to even out that bottom. But you know what? Sis is looking pretty good. Okay. Okay, so I was digging around in my stash and I found some pink ribbon that I thought could possibly work for this project. But it was cut into 3 different pieces. I have no idea where I got this ribbon from, so I don't know why it was cut. But I just sewed it together so it could be one long strip. And then I needed to figure out how I was actually going to secure this ribbon to the back of the dress. So I decided to take another small piece of ribbon and just cut 3-inch strips to make loops for the back of the dress. And that's exactly what I did. I put 4 loops on one side of the back and 4 loops on the other side of the back. And I put one on both sides of the front just in case because I wasn't sure how I wanted to actually lace it up. I know I wanted to mess with the lacing, but y'all, the lacing confused the heck out of me. But yeah, I just put the loops on and pinned them into place where I wanted them to be. And I just did a straight stitch back and forth a couple of times, being very sparing with the thread, because at this point I was so close to running out of thread. It would amaze you. I was so scared. Like every time I was staring at it, like, let me just do this one. Let me do the both at the top. Let me do both at the bottom. Let me do the two in the middle. Like I was trying to sew everything so evenly just in case I ran out of thread and couldn't include a set of loops. Like it was ridiculous, y'all. Look at this mess. Once I was done securing all the loops into place, I just strung up the ribbon any old way just to make sure it was long enough and it was going to reach all the way around. And y'all, it barely reached. Like it's barely long enough, but you know what? It is long enough, and that's all that matters. And last but not least, I'm going to take the last bit of that pearly fabric that I have left is the sleeves, and I just cut them open. And I made 2 little loops with it just to have something to dangle off my shoulders, give it more of a little princessy look. So I just took each sleeve the long way and I folded it right sides together, and I just did a straight stitch along the top edge just to close that circle up. And then I also did a straight stitch along that same edge, connecting it to the side of the bodice. Again, this is not meant to hold it up. It's just for the look, and I think it looks pretty cute. Oh my god, you guys, you made it to the end of the video. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had as much fun watching as I had making this dress, because it was definitely an experience. But it's definitely an experience that I appreciate, and it was definitely a learning experience as well. So I definitely learned a few things for the next time I want to make some sort of princess dress, because the bodice is a little ill-fitting because I used ribbon, and probably if I would have took that metal out in the beginning before I did the darts, it probably would have been a little more flattering, but that's okay. Like I said, it's a learning experience. And you guys, if you haven't subscribed already, do me a favor and click that subscribe button. And don't forget to click that notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video, because I'm going to keep posting and I don't want you to miss this thing. Also, if you have some time, just share this video with your friends and your family so they know what's going on here. We can get the word around and let everybody know that this pastel pixie is here to stay. But until next time, you guys, I'm wishing you all love, peace, and cupcakes. Bye.